All right, so something pretty wild happened in the markets just a few days ago, especially on the NASDAQ. Everything just tumbled. And it all came down to this one single, really shocking report from a research firm that, frankly, not a lot of people had heard of. But boy, did it paint a scary picture of our future, all because of AI. This right here, this is the line that kicked off the chaos. It's literally the first sentence of the Citrini Research report. And get this, it doesn't say it's predicting the future. Nope, it claims to be writing from the future, from June 2028, looking back at a massive financial crisis that already happened. It's such a chilling way to start, and you can see why it absolutely grabbed Wall Street by the throat. And the reaction? Oh, it was instant. And it was brutal. The report had what traders immediately started calling a kill list, a bunch of huge companies whose entire business models were supposedly about to get wiped out. And the damage was real. We saw big hits to giants in private credit, the firms lending money outside the normal banking system, like Blackstone. We saw platforms like DoorDash get hammered. Payment networks like MasterCard, too. And for the software as a service sector, which was already having a tough year, well, this just poured gasoline on the fire. So you're probably wondering, what on earth did this report actually say to cause all this? Well, before we dive into the nitty-gritty, it's really important to understand what the authors were trying to do. They call this a thought experiment, not a crystal ball prediction. Their whole point wasn't to start a panic. It was to ask a terrifying question. What if all our wildest, most optimistic dreams about AI come true, but that actually turns out to be a really, really bad thing for the economy? Okay, the core of their entire argument is this idea they call ghost GDP. Let me break it down. So AI agents are working 24/7, they never get sick, they don't need benefits. That sends corporate productivity and, on paper, our national GDP just soaring into the stratosphere. But, and this is the big but, all that new wealth gets stuck at the top with the people who own the AI. It doesn't trickle down to regular people as wages. So you end up with this phantom growth, this ghost GDP that looks great in a spreadsheet but never actually hits anyone's bank account. And since regular people spending money is like 70% of the US economy, well, you can see the problem. And from there, the report just lays out this terrifying chain reaction. The first domino to fall is software. The report argues that as AI gets smart enough to just build custom software for you on the spot, big SaaS companies like Salesforce lose all their power. They have to start offering huge discounts just to keep customers. Their revenue tanks, and they start defaulting on the massive loans they took out from those private credit firms. Next, the software sector collapses, leading to mass layoffs of high-paying, white-collar jobs. And who are those people? They're the ones with the prime mortgages. Suddenly, they can't pay their bills, and just like that, a problem that started in Silicon Valley becomes a full-blown housing crisis. Kind of like 2008, but starting from a completely different place. The bigger picture here is that AI's ultimate target is what the report calls friction. Just think about it. How many billion-dollar companies exist just because doing things is inconvenient for us humans? We use travel sites because searching every airline is a pain. We use DoorDash because it's easy. We use credit cards. The report says AI agents are going to eliminate all of that. Your personal AI agent will just find the absolute best deal every single time, bypassing all those middlemen and their fees. And in doing so, it could just vaporize the business models of entire trillion-dollar industries. So for a full day, the market was absolutely gripped by this doomsday story. I mean, it really felt like the sky was falling. But then, almost as fast as the panic started, a completely different story began to take hold. People started pushing back, the thinking started to shift, and the market began to claw its way back. And really, this whole roller coaster ride boils down to the two ideas on the slide. On one side, you have the report's big idea. AI is a replacement technology. It's here to make jobs and even whole industries totally obsolete. But then the counter-argument came roaring back, saying, no, 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 you've got it all wrong. AI is an augmentation technology. It's a tool that's going to be layered on top of what we already have to make our existing systems and the people who run them way better. And you'll never guess where the first big pushback came from. Anthropic. The very AI company whose technology sparked all this fear in the first place. An executive came out and basically said, whoa, everyone, this is a huge misunderstanding. He made it super clear their goal is to partner with their customers, not replace them. And to prove it, they started announcing all these new partnerships with big companies, showing a path forward that's about collaboration, not destruction. And they weren't alone. Pretty soon, other heavy hitters started chiming in. You had a Federal Reserve Governor, Christopher Waller, calling the whole doomsday thing exaggerated. Then, analysts at Wedbush pointed out something really important that the market panic was missing. Big companies are messy. They're built on decades of tangled legacy systems. You can't just flip a switch and replace all that. AI is going to have to be an additive layer on top. And that line of thinking is exactly why we saw a stock like IBM, a company that specializes in those complex enterprise systems, bounce back so hard. Okay, so we have two completely opposite stories on the table. One says AI is going to cause an economic apocalypse. The other says it's just the next great tool. So which one is it? Was this report a real signal we need to pay very close attention to, or was it all just noise that kicked up a little dust in the market for a day? Let's try to build a framework to figure this out. Let's just tackle the big question head-on. Was this report a terrifying prophecy, a glimpse into a future that's already written, or was it just a moment of panic, fueled by a story that was really compelling but maybe a little flawed? Well, if you take a step back, it seems like the report's straight-line projection to disaster kind of forgets a few things about how the real world works. First, politics. Do we really think governments would just sit back and watch unemployment hit crisis levels? No way. They'd step in with subsidies, new regulations, maybe even an AI tax. Second, that friction we talked about, it's incredibly sticky. Things like legal liability, red tape, and just basic human trust are powerful forces that AI can't just wish away. And finally, capitalism adapts. The money companies save on labor doesn't just vanish, it becomes profit or it leads to lower prices, which eventually creates demand for new things. So here's the real bottom line. The Citrini Report probably isn't a sign that you should sell all your stocks. Its real value, its true genius, is that it's a warning. It's a thought experiment that forces all of us to think about the very real challenges that this amazing technology is going to create. So with all that in mind, how should we think about the road ahead? What's the real lesson from this crazy week of panic and pushback? The future, is probably not the perfect utopia the bulls are promising, but it's probably not the dystopia the bears are fearing either. It's going to be messy, somewhere in the middle. The real challenge isn't stopping AI. That ship has sailed. The real work ahead is figuring out how we adapt our society and our economy to handle a shift this big, to make sure this transition is managed and the benefits are shared. The Citrini Report ends with a really fascinating line. It says, "You're reading this in February 2026. The canary is still alive." It's this powerful reminder that the disaster they describe, it hasn't happened. Not yet. We still have time to prepare, to debate, to build. But the question this whole episode leaves me with is, are we moving fast enough?